swinging between skyscrapers, flipping over villains, stopping crime with a flick of the wrist. Spider-Man's secret. Web shooters, one wrist-mounted gadget that turns a teenager into a city-saving hero. Ultra-strong, precise, and insanely versatile, these devices make Spider-Man's feats look effortless. How does a simple gadget pull off such impossible tricks? Watch closely. Every detail reveals the genius behind Spider-Man's incredible web shooters. Chapter 1. What are web shooters? Spider-Man's web shooters are more than just flashy gadgets. They're a masterpiece of miniaturized engineering. Strapped to his wrists, these devices allow Peter Parker to swing across New York, trap villains, and even create shields or emergency tools on the fly. Every Spider-Man version, from Tobey Maguire to Tom Holland, relies on some form of web shooter. The designs may change, and the tech may get fancier, but the core idea stays the same, launching a strong, flexible web from a compact wrist-mounted device. Let's focus on the 2012 Amazing Spider-Man version, which is a perfect blend of science, practicality, and genius. Peter's shooters aren't limited to swinging. He can create sticky traps mid-air, block attacks, or even fashion makeshift tools in a pinch. Think of a device small enough to hide under a costume but powerful enough to perform all these tasks. That's the brilliance of the web shooter. What makes it truly fascinating is that it's a window into Peter's mind. A teenager with a camera and a backpack full of science supplies manages to engineer a device that could rival some of the world's top inventors. The web shooter isn't just about superhero action. It's a symbol of intelligence, creativity, and problem-solving, showing that Spider-Man's greatest power often comes from his brain, not just his spider abilities. Chapter 2. Core components of the web shooter. Alright, let's dive into the web shooter and see what makes it work. First up, the web capsule. Think of it as a tiny, pressurized container that holds hundreds of meters of web fluid at around 20 atmospheres, roughly 300 psi. That's a lot of pressure in such a small space, and the web isn't just any string, it's a biocable from Oscorp, made from genetically modified spider silk. Peter even tweaks it a bit himself to make sure it's perfectly suited for swinging, sticking, or trapping. Next, the electromechanical valve. This is crucial because it stops the web from accidentally firing at the worst possible moment, like when Peter scratches his nose. Then there's the nozzle, which shapes the web into a neat, directed stream, and the trigger button. Pressed with his middle and ring finger, this sends a signal to the shooter to fire exactly when he wants it. Inside, the magic continues with a miniature circuit board. It receives the trigger signal, opens the valve, and even shows how much web is left using tiny LED indicators. All of this runs on a compact lithium battery, and the best part, Peter uses parts from old wristwatches to make everything fit perfectly in his arm. It's small, reliable, and ridiculously clever. Pure Parker engineering. Chapter 3. How it works mechanically. So how does all this come together to actually fire a web? Let's break it down step by step. First, Peter presses the trigger button with his fingers. That sends a signal straight to the microcontroller hidden inside the shooter. Once it gets the signal, the valve on the web capsule opens, letting that pressurized web fluid blast out. As the fluid passes through the nozzle, it forms a neat, thin line, which instantly solidifies into a strong, flexible web. That's why Spider-Man can swing across city streets or trap criminals without the web snapping, and the shooter can fire different types of webs depending on what's needed. Want a single line to swing? Done. Need a sticky net to trap a villain? Easy. How about an adhesive blob to block an attack? The shooter's got that too. It's amazing how mechanical engineering meets practical physics here. Everything, from pressure to nozzle shape to trigger sensitivity, is fine-tuned for perfect control. And Peter's shooter is small enough to hide under his costume, but powerful enough to do everything he needs. It's this mechanical brilliance that makes the web shooter so iconic, and a gadget fan can obsess over it for decades. Chapter 4. The science behind spider silk. Now let's talk science, because Peter Parker's web fluid isn't just sticky string, it's a high-tech engineered polymer that rivals natural spider silk. Real spider silk is astonishing, stronger than steel, incredibly elastic, lightweight, and it doesn't twist or fray under stress. That's why comics and movies often emphasize that Peter's webbing is super strong. In the films, Peter tweaks the natural silk into a fluid that can shoot under high pressure, solidify instantly, and remain flexible enough for swinging, grappling, and trapping. In the real world, scientists are actually studying this. They've started synthesizing spidroin protein threads, which mimic the strength and elasticity of spider silk. While we can't swing across buildings yet, these threads show incredible promise for applications like ultralight ropes, body armor, and even medical sutures. It's the perfect mix of fiction and reality. The comics give us thrills and creativity, while real science inspires possible future applications. Peter's web shooters aren't just superhero gimmicks. They're a peek into what happens when biology, chemistry, and engineering come together. That's why every time we see Spider-Man sling through the city, it feels plausible, at least in a cartoonishly awesome way. Chapter 5. Other versions of web shooters. Of course, Peter Parker isn't the only Spider-Man to rock a web shooter. Across movies, games, and comics, each version has its own twist. Take Tom Holland's Tony Stark enhanced shooters, for example. These include AI integration and multiple web modes, perfect for a modern high-tech Spider-Man. Then there's Tobey Maguire's classic shooters, simpler, mechanical, but still brilliantly functional. In the gaming world, Insomniac's Spider-Man and Miles Morales versions add upgrades like multi-strand web lines, stronger threads, and special combat modes, giving players even more control. Each iteration tweaks the web capacity, firing speed, and control systems, making them unique while sticking to the same core concept. This diversity shows just how flexible the idea of a web shooter is. You can go classic and practical, high-tech with AI, or even super science with multifunction modes. Fans love comparing these versions because it highlights not just Peter's genius, but the creativity of each Spider-Man universe. Whether you prefer old-school mechanics or futuristic tech, web shooters remain the ultimate symbol of Spider-Man's intelligence and inventiveness. Chapter 6. Types of webbing and control. Now that we know how the web shooter works mechanically, let's dive into the different types of webbing Peter Parker can create, and it's more than just a swinging rope. The standard web line is what we usually see when he swings across skyscrapers or zips between rooftops, but that's just the beginning. Sometimes he needs a net or an adhesive blob to trap a villain mid-escape, or even to block a projectile. The versatility is insane. Peter's genius doesn't stop at web design. He also developed special formulas for specific situations. Think fire-resistant webs, tensile strengthened lines that can hold vehicles, or quick-dry cement-like webs for immobilizing dangerous foes. These variations show how he adapts on the fly. Control is just as impressive. Depending on the version, he uses pressure-sensitive triggers, dials, or even AI-assisted adjustments to switch web types in seconds. It's like having multiple tools in one device, a Swiss Army knife of superhero tech. Think of swinging through the city, seeing a villain ahead, and instantly choosing the perfect web type to stop them. That's pure Parker innovation. The web shooter isn't just about launching threads, it's about precision, strategy, and adapting to every scenario, which is why it's one of the coolest gadgets in superhero history. Chapter 7. Limitations and weaknesses. As amazing as web shooters are, they're not invincible. Even Peter Parker runs into problems sometimes. The first and most obvious issue? Running out of web fluid mid-battle. Think of swinging between skyscrapers or about to trap a villain and click, nothing, out of the web. That moment adds real tension, showing that even superheroes deal with limitations. Mechanical failure is another concern. Web shooters can jam, break, or even be stolen. If a villain grabs your wrist mid-fight, suddenly your own invention could be turned against you. Not exactly ideal. And then there's the issue of concealment. They're wrist-mounted devices, but bulky enough to be noticeable if Peter isn't careful. It's one thing to hide them under a costume, another to keep them unnoticed in everyday life. Finally, real-world challenges add another layer of complexity. Sourcing the chemicals for web fluid is tough. Producing synthetic spider silk in large quantities is tricky. And let's be honest, human muscles and bones aren't built for swinging through the city at high speeds. These weaknesses aren't just technical, they add drama, strategy, and realism, reminding us that even genius inventions come with trade-offs. Web shooters may be incredible, but they're far from perfect. Chapter 8. Could web shooters exist in real life? Here's the big question. Could Spider-Man's web shooters exist outside the pages of comics or the big screen? The mechanical side, surprisingly, yes. Some hobbyists have built wrist-mounted shooters that can fire strings or threads, showing that the concept itself isn't entirely fantasy. The challenge, of course, is the web material. Natural spider silk is incredibly strong, elastic and lightweight, but most spiders produce tiny amounts and don't live in colonies. So, creating enough silk for swinging or trapping is nearly impossible unless you genetically engineer spiders or create synthetic alternatives, and that's exactly what scientists are experimenting with. Lab-produced spidroin fibers mimic the strength and flexibility of real spider silk, bringing us a step closer to Spider-Man tech in the real world. That said, swinging across a city like Spider-Man? Forget it, our muscles and bones just aren't built to handle those sudden forces. But the concept has practical applications: ultralight ropes, body armor, high-strength fasteners, and even medical sutures. Essentially, while real-life web shooters won't make us superheroes, they could inspire amazing innovations in engineering and medicine. Spider-Man's gadgets may start in fiction, but they're opening doors to real scientific possibilities. Chapter 9. Alternate Universe Upgrades. Spider-Man's web shooters aren't limited to a single universe. Across alternate realities, they've been upgraded, modified, and reimagined to match each spider hero's need. Take Earth-65 Gwen Stacy, for example. Her shooters pull moisture directly from the air, providing a continuous supply of webbing without the need for refills. Then there's Ultimate Universe Peter Parker, whose web shooters are a high-pressure system built on his father's molecular adhesive research, allowing for stronger, more precise web lines. In other sci-fi versions, web shooters feature advanced technologies such as holographic camouflage, EMP-enabled webs, AI-assisted targeting systems, and multi-mode firing mechanisms. These upgrades demonstrate how a basic wrist-mounted device can evolve into highly specialized equipment depending on the hero's requirements. What's important across all universes is that these variations highlight the engineering brilliance and problem-solving skills behind the device. Whether simple or highly advanced, each web shooter reflects its user's intelligence, creativity, and adaptability. From a storytelling perspective, these upgrades allow creators to experiment with new abilities, visuals, and strategies, making the web shooter not just a tool, but a versatile, iconic element of Spider-Man's identity. Chapter 10. The genius behind the gadget. After exploring design, mechanics, science, and variations, it's clear that web shooters are more than just props. They're a reflection of Peter Parker's genius. They highlight his engineering skills, problem-solving abilities, and creativity, showing that his real power isn't just his spider strength. Web shooters are iconic because they combine versatility, precision, and sci-fi plausibility. Whether it's swinging between buildings, trapping a villain, or creating emergency tools, they're a perfect blend of imagination and believable mechanics. And that's what makes them so fun to analyze. They're not just flashy gadgets, they're an extension of Spider-Man himself, demonstrating brains over brawn. Most importantly, web shooters inspire us to think like Peter Parker. Could you invent a device that solves multiple problems on the fly? Could you combine creativity with engineering in a way that changes the game? Spider-Man reminds us that intelligence, responsibility, and a bit of ingenuity are just as heroic as super strength. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of web shooters, remember it's not just about swinging or fighting crime. It's about brilliance, problem-solving, and thinking outside the box, the qualities that make Spider-Man truly spectacular. So, What would your ultimate web shooter look like? Drop your ideas into the comments, let's debate. If you love this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into superhero gadgets, science,